Hello and welcome. Thanks for being here. I am Curtis Marshall. As the VP of Marketing at Dental Intel, I help dentists increase the value of their practice and improve their lifestyle. Over here, we're all number geeks. So, what I've done is I got the team together and we pulled together the three simple ways to increase your dental practice income for any practice. I don't care what you are, where you're from, what part of the world you're in even. This is for any practice out there. But don't worry, there's nothing to buy. What I'm going to give you is totally educational, and you're going to get the three simple ways to take home more money. In almost all cases, understanding and leading your business by numbers will improve the financial position of the business, especially in the business of dentistry. I am so passionate about what we're doing here, and that's why we're doing all this. So, with no delay, let's get into this. This is my mugshot. As you can see, I value the importance of a healthy smile. 10 years ago, I invested in some cosmetic crowns. There are Impress porcelain there. It's the best thing I've ever done. Investing in yourself and your practice has enormous benefits. If you have any questions or would like to follow me, here's my contact info. I love speaking to dentists day and night. I provide top level education. One way I help educate offices is by writing articles as the naked dentist. As a naked dentist, I'm able to strip down a practice of all its clothes, makeup, accessories to reveal the areas that really need toned and sometimes, unfortunately, need surgery. And I'm able to do this with a powerful analytic tool called Dental Intel. Well, that's about how I do what I do with education. As far as myself, my whole family is in the dental space. We eat, talk, breathe, and even vacation dental, as I'm sure most of you do. In fact, we're planning a trip to Costa Rica to visit the Invisalign plant. I'm really excited about that. But grab a pencil because I'm not going to send you these three simple ways to increase your practice income by text or email. I'm not going to send it to you. But I'll give you a promise. I believe so much in leading your practice by numbers that if you do these three simple things daily for just 1 month, you will increase the value of your practice. And best of all, it won't cost you a penny. So I'm going to get started with talking about an example about degrees, how small changes do make a big impact. So pick up that pencil because it's going to be great. The first the first thing that we're talking about here is the 2 degrees. And mathematically, this is how it would equate. From point A to point B, 1 foot apart, 2 degrees is less than a half inch. Not a big deal, right? Well, as we progress through the measurement, 2 degrees at 1 mile becomes a 60-yard difference. And if we look at that distance of 1,300 miles, 2 degrees of error calculates to a 28-mile mistake. Oh, here's a true story on how a small 2 degrees affected many lives. In 1997, which just so happens to be the best year ever, aka the year I was born, uh, a large passenger jet with 257 people on board left New Zealand for sightseeing to go sightseeing Antarctica and come back. Unknowing to the pilots, the flight coordinates were off by a mere 2 degrees. Not ever checking with air traffic control for assurance or guidance, this error placed that aircraft 28 miles to the east of where the pilots assumed they were. As they approached the Antarctica, the pilots descended to a lower altitude to give the passengers a better look at the landscape. Although both pilots were experienced, without proper indicators and gauges, they did not have a way to monitor the flight's path. Unfortunately, they were unaware that the incorrect coordinates had placed them directly in the path of Mount Erebus. During the whole flight, though, the crew, the pilots, the passengers, they all felt safe and were excited about the opportunity to see Antarctica. Now, what I want you to leave this webinar knowing is that the actions you need to take that will ultimately lead you to the lifestyle you want to live, and eventually retire with the amount of money that you want to retire with. Or in other words, I want you to land safely in Antarctica, have a great time, and then return home safely. This is easily done if you're able to track and monitor your practice. Between the practice management systems, whether you have Dentrix, Open Dental, EagleSoft, or whatever it is, in conjunction with your financial data like QuickBooks, there are over 400 numbers that you could and should track. Sounds like a big ordeal, huh? It is, but it doesn't have to be. To lead your practice by numbers, it should be simple. Here's an example of a friend of mine that discovered how easy it can be. He lives in Park City, so let's go ahead and call him Dr. Park City. He went to dental school. The initial reason why he went to dental school was to help patients, obviously, but more importantly, to live the lifestyle that he saw other dentists living. When he bought his practice in Park City, he was so excited. I mean, number one, the area is beautiful and the town is awesome if you've ever been there. But he and his family were on their way to living the dental lifestyle. While he felt safe and excited about the future, he would often look at the daily or weekly production and collections report. Some days those numbers were awesome, like when a cosmetic case comes in. Other days, not so awesome. After many years, he was still taking home much less than he desired. So much so that he wanted to sell his practice and become an associate for someone else. The risk of running this business didn't meet the reward he was bringing home. He was struggling at home and at the office, and the only way he saw to relieve this problem was to sell his practice. To make things worse, he believed that based off of his emotions, that people in his community thought he was a bad dentist. By a side note, that wasn't the case. He heard me speak at a dental conference about the importance of leading your practice by numbers. All the numbers, not just production and collections, but all of them. He came up to me afterwards and told me about his situation and said, "This just isn't what I thought being a dentist was going to be like." So we gathered all 400 plus numbers from his practice management. I think he had Dentrix and his financial data. And boom, without any data entry or pulling any reports, we could see exactly what was going on within his specific practice. No longer was he looking at just collections and productions. He now had practice intelligence that displayed what needs help. By simply seeing what had happened and what effect each number had on each other, he and his team was able to make small improvements that had huge effects. Now, like I said, the only thing that he did was monitoring his practice with my analytic tool. And here's the cool thing. Within just 3 months, Dr. Park City had more than doubled his net take home. Think that's awesome? Well, it gets even better. After 1 year, he was taking home over $400,000 without working any additional work, no additional stress, simply by knowing what specific metrics to improve within his specific practice. No cookie cutter system. Although I can't give you free access to this amazing technology, I do want to outline, as promised, the 3 metrics that you can track daily that will increase your take home without any additional effort. Although each practice is unique and should, although we're all unique, what we want to do is make minor adjustments. And these 3 metrics, they are universal. And they will work with any practice, big or small, multiple or single location. Doesn't matter whether you're preparing for retirement or you're brand new startup. When monitoring these 3 metrics daily, you will see huge strides. The ultimate goal that we need to have and need to realize when tracking these 3 goals is that we need to have more butts in the chair. That's what it all boils down to. More butts in the chair. That's what every practice needs. I don't care what's your situation. You need those butts in the chairs. If that's the only thing you get from this webinar, I hope you understand that in order to increase the value of your practice, you must get more butts in the chair. So let's find out the first metric that gets you butts in the chair. It's simple. You probably already track it right now, but let's look into it. Sounds simple, right? New patients. One of the most one part of getting more butts in your chair is getting those new patients. You will hear from most consultants and many dental experts that you must get new patients. Well, that is not what I'm saying today. What I'm saying is that you must track and monitor your new patients. Some offices don't need new patients, others need a lot of new patients. See this blue box right here? This is a metric that I pulled from one of my offices. The intelligence tells me that the practice needs 18 new patients a month. See that? The goal 18 right there? And the metric is telling me that this office has 20 new patients for this month. That means everything's great, right? Well, look at that red dot up top. That's a red indicator. That's telling me that although I have reached my goal, the office is trending down for the last 6 months. Why is this important? Well, remember the pilot that was off 2 degrees? Even if the pilot were to correct the flight by a positive number, let's say 1 degree, 50%, the plane is still off course by 1 degree. Does that make sense? Even though you might be having a good month, if you're not tracking, you could be going in the wrong path. All right, you ready for the next one? Hope you wrote that down. Here we go. Reappointment. Reappointment. I'm not talking about recall here. It's not what we're saying you need to, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to track how many hygiene patients leave your office with a scheduled hygiene appointment, whether that's a prophy, a root scale and root planing, perio maintenance, whatever it is, they must have another hygiene appointment on the schedule. Now, this is an interesting number because out of the hundreds of offices that I've synced with, there's been only 3 that have been over 60%. You might think that sounds crazy, but it is true time and time again. Because even when we ask the team, how many patients leave the office with a return appointment? They almost always say 100%. Sometimes they might say 9 out of 10, but the numbers don't lie. Out of all the offices we pull, they are under 60%. When you track this number for yourself, I want you to first track it without telling your staff. First off, and how you do that is you count how many hygiene visits happened in that day, and then count how many of those patients have a future hygiene appointment. Not restorative once again, but hygiene. After you get some data, then I want you to show your team where they are. Now, this number is not to catch your team failing. I don't want you to go to them and say, fail. That's not what this is about. It is to help your team improve because if they truly think that they are because ultimately they truly think that they're converting at a higher percentage. But without seeing the hard, cold facts, they will never know where they are or how to improve. Now, here's something fun. If any of you are, once you do track this on your own, if any of you are above 60%, call me and I'll send you a $10 gift card to Starbucks. But almost guarantee that if you don't, but don't give your team a heads up before you track it, obviously. And as you can tell in my blue box here, it tells me exactly where I'm at. My hygiene visits were 3 for this month. It was 396, and total repointed visits was 332. The goal is 90%. They're at 84%, which is low, but they're trending in an upward position, right? Does that make sense? It's giving you a lot of data right there. Okay, let's talk about the third and last number. The third number is your cancel and no-show rate. No-show is the number of patients that don't show up or cancels within 24 hours of that set appointment. And it just so happens that there's a new ADA code for this. It's D9986. Now, it's important to note that you should never delete an appointment. Don't delete appointments. Instead, add this code, and then you can add this code to the appointment, and then mark them as no show, and then you can pull a report that tells you all your no shows. Now, cancellation appointment, or excuse me, a canceled appointment is anyone who gives you at least 24 hours notice. And there's a new ADA code for this one too. It's D9986. Once again, do not delete this appointment. Add the code instead and make a new appointment, or pin the appointment after you put in the code, pin the appointment, and then put it somewhere else. Not knowing this number can be catastrophic. Not only are you losing patients, but you're getting less butts in the chair. But on top of that, you're also acquiring holes in your schedule that cannot be filled. And you know what happens when you have holes in your schedule? End up spending more time on Clash of Clans. And that's something that may be fun at the time, but that's something we do not want to be doing during work hours. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. You can see it right here, curtis@dentalintel.com. Now, I still got some more good stuff to show with you, even though we've discussed the 3 things. I wanted to go over so you can write them down. Here's all 3 of them. Remember, the ultimate goal is to get more butts in the chair. By simply monitoring these numbers and showing them to your staff every day, I guarantee that you will increase your take-home cash at the same time increase the practice of your value, increase the value of your practice. And I want to give you now some goals for each of these metrics. My partner, Rob Bay, you may have heard of him before, he told me to not give you these, but I feel that if you don't have a goal, then you will not see lasting improvement. So I put them in here. I hope you still have your pencils out. Ready? First one is new patients, right? We've talked about it. You might need a lot, you might need 0. But the goal for this one is simple. And the goal for if you don't have intelligence, right? If you don't have intelligence, this goal is simple. As many as possible. The intelligence will tell you how many your specific practice needs, but without that intelligence, a goal for growth to get as many as possible is best. Okay, hope you wrote that one down. Second one, reappointment. Remember, I doubt any of you are above 60% right now. But if you simply track this reappointment number, you will see this number change overnight. The goal is 90% or higher. Without fail and no excuses, 90% or higher. Third metric is cancel and no-shows, right? I hate to say it, and I know you don't want to hear this, but you will have people cancel and not show up. Contrary to our beliefs, dentistry is not on the top of mind for the general public. The goal here is to have both cancel and no-show at less than 15%. If you want to be an all-star, then go ahead and set the team goal at 10%, but I at least want you to hit 15%. Once you know these numbers, you can then make adjustments, but without knowing them, you will go off course. You and your team might say this is tough, but I don't want you to be a victim. Every location can obtain these numbers and goals. Now that you know what to track, you will need to know or have, I should say, a plan on how to improve. The next thing I want to give you some ammo. Put some ammo into your practice. The ammo that I'm going to give you is on reappointment. How many of you heard from your team, I tried to set up an appointment, but the patient said, I need to talk to my spouse? Or the patient told me that they will call me to set up an appointment. Yeah, right. Like that ever happens. Here's a social proof that's based off of numbers. And it's pretty simple. When people are uncertain about a course of action, they tend to look at those around them to guide decisions and actions, both. They especially want to know what everyone else is doing, especially their peers. In a recent study, Dr. Caldani and his team of colleagues ran an experiment to see which types of signs would most encourage Arizona hotel visitors to reuse towels. They tested 4 types of signs, and I'm sure you've uh, seen these in the past or seen a variation of them, but these are hard, cold fact numbers, and we're going to learn from them. The first one cited environmental reasons to encourage visitors to reuse their towels. And they got 38% of the people to reuse them. The second one said the hotels would actually pay money, donate a portion of the year-end laundry savings for an environmental cause. Oddly enough, that number went lower. It's 36%. The third, uh, the third sign that they put up said that hotels had already given a donation and said, "Will you please join us?" Right? That went up. It went to 46%, but they still have to give out. They're giving out. It's money based, right? And it's like, "Hey, join up with us." The fourth one, I mean, it's just like, oh, duh. This is so simple, right? The fourth one had higher percentage and nothing for the hotels to do. It said the majority of guests reuse their towels at least once during their stay. This is another example of how monitoring and tracking gives us awesome information. This social proof tested many locations, many signs to get an actionable item to accomplish. From this study, we now know what we need to say to our patients to get them to set their next appointment. It's going to go something like this. After the cleaning, you want to say something, depends on your practice, but something along these lines. Most of my patients schedule their next hygiene appointment at the same time and the same day of week. I marked you down for Friday at 8 a.m. Will that work for you? I'm going to say it one more time. Most of my patients schedule their next hygiene appointment at the same time at the same day of the week. I marked you down for Friday at 8 a.m. Will that work for you? If we don't monitor and track our results, we can get into a really bad situation. Now let's go back to our opening story. As the pilots we were talking about earlier, as they were flying over Antarctica, just a small 2 degrees off course, the white of the snow and ice covering the mountain blended with the white of the clouds above, made it appear as though they were flying over flat ground. By the time the pilots saw and heard the warning signs, the ground was rising too fast. It was too late. The airplane crashed into the side of the volcano, killing everyone on board. It was a terrible tragedy that was brought on by a minor error, a matter of only 2 degrees. Now, my brother's a pilot, and this is myself and his girlfriend. We're just about ready to take off. I'm the nerd. I've got my headphones on, even though I don't need to. But we were out there, and his plane is awesome. This is the most intelligent plane I've ever seen, and it guides into safety. This plane even has a parachute. See that black lever on the ceiling? That's what that is. I didn't believe him, but I read it, and it definitely is. But he has these intelligent dashboards that tells him exactly what he needs to do to make successful decisions. While we were flying, I asked him, how hard is it for pilots who didn't have all these intelligent metrics to fly? Because I'm looking at all of them, I'm like, it's got to be way hard, right? The answer shocked me. He said it wasn't hard for them to fly at all. The only thing that changed with this new technology is that pilots can now have more successful flights. So I asked him, so why don't you just get a less expensive plane without the technology? And he said, because it's smarter to fly with anything that improves your success rate. That got me thinking. Dentists don't need to track. They don't even need practice intelligence, but it's smarter to do both. When performance is measured, performance improves. And when performance is measured and reported back to the doctor, or reported back to the office manager, the rate of improvement accelerates. That statement is so true. And by combining all of your practice management numbers with your financial data and then using intelligence to guide you to success, it's a smarter way to run a practice. Remember my friend in Park City? Well, after 2 years of using my practice intelligence, he called me and said, I got this. I'm running my practice so smooth. My wife is happy. The staff is happy. I'm happy. I don't need your software anymore. So he canceled. Within a very short 30 days of not tracking, he saw his practice declining. He called me right up, and at first I thought he was going to invite me to lunch or something. I mean, we're good friends. I just thought he was just calling me up. But he was calling me to get his intelligent dashboards again. He had learned the importance of leading his practice by numbers. And then he discovered that no matter how much you know about numbers and how much you think that they're important, if you're not seeing them daily, that knowledge does you no good. He now looks at this board right here for only 5-10 minutes a day. That's less time than he spends looking at his Instagram. By doing so, he instantly knows what needs to be done to keep status quo or what needs to improve, depending on goals. He thanks me all the time saying, I'm so glad I didn't sell my practice. Life is more enjoyable, and I now see exactly what is happening in my practice. It's important to note that each practice is different and unique, and while these 3 metrics we talked about today will apply to your practice 100%, there are still unique differences and therefore each practice needs to identify the metrics specific to them. Each dental office that monitor and tracks the important numbers for their specific practices reach goals faster, easier, and have a longer lasting success. Do you know the important metrics for your practice? Let's discover them together. Let's discover your top 3 metrics. As a naked dentist, I love stripping offices and seeing the raw data within the practice. Call me. Let's find out what your top 3 metrics are. I'm sure you'll be surprised at what you see. This webinar was to give you the 3 simple ways to increase your practice performance. I hope you got a lot more than just that from this webinar. If you see the importance that intelligence can have within your practice, let's talk. Schedule time with me to determine if my software is right for you. All it takes is a free, short, and easy call to find out your top 3 metrics. You got my cell number right here. Give me a text. Text me day or night, sooner the better. If you text me your name and number with the biggest frustration of your practice, for those that text or contact me right now, I'll waive our setup fee. And most people think, oh, setup fees are nothing. Well, our setup fee is unique. Our setup fee is for a data analyst to spend hours of time on your data, to train your team and to understand the importance of numbers. And I'll waive it. I won't charge you a bit. So text or call me right now to get the top 3 metrics for your specific practice. I'm the Naked Dentist. My name's Curtis Marshall. Let's get naked together. I really hope you enjoyed this. Feel free at any time, like I said, to give me a call. If you do want to see some other, so you've seen Dr. Park City. Here are some other people that have been really happy with our product. Here's Dr. Max. He's a stud. His real name's Cloud Maxwell, but we call him Dr. Max, and he's out on the East Coast. He said, the quality of my life and the ease of running its practice has never been better. He used to run around like crazy. He was in a marriage, and that didn't go so well the first time because he worked so much. He said, I was a workaholic. And with his new family, he wanted to be able to spend more quality time with them. And he said with Dental Intel, it gives him that real-time actionable data so that he can do so. You also have the beautiful Janet Schrody. She has a practice on the West Coast. And it's amazing to see how simply by looking at numbers, she's been able to go from that next step that she's always been trying to go. She says that Dental Intel monitors and identifies the metrics she needs to track so that she can bring a reliable income home. And these are just a few of our raving fans. We love our clients. We love speaking to them. I speak to them often, not as their analyst or anything, but just to see what's going on within their practice, see if they need help with marketing or anything along those lines. There's so much information that we gave you today. If you do have any other questions, feel free to contact me. This is my, once again, this is my information. Uh, we'd love to give you a free, short, and easy call. Dental Intel is the leader in performance for all practices nationwide, and we're excited to be working with you here shortly. Feel free to use these 3 metrics that we talked about today and share them with your friends and family, or friends and colleagues, people you went to school with, whoever. You can put them on a blog. I don't care. Get them out there, because the more people track, the more success we'll see in dentistry. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.